May Day, did you know, is another very big pagan festival. So if you look at this calendar, May Day is here, which is the coming of summer. Summer solstice is over here, but it's in between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. And May Day is when, again, the pagans believe that now summer is coming. So here is summer now coming, and there was another goddess which they worshipped. Does anybody know what the name of that goddess was? Any ideas? Nobody knows. Flora. Okay? Flora is the name of the goddess. And what do you think she brings if you worship her?
Flowers.
Flowers, good. So here she is, she's going to come out of that bud and she's going to water the land so all the flowers come up. What do we believe? Where do all the flowers come from? Yes? From Allah. He's the one who sends all the flowers. So they believe that this is the goddess which brings all the flowers into the land. And do you know how they worshipped her? Who's heard of Maypole Dancing? Yeah? They would go round and round and round, clockwise around trees to worship her, like we go around anti-clockwise around the Kaaba to worship Allah in the same way. Okay, so here are the pagans going around singing songs, worshipping the goddess Flora so she can bring the summer and the spring so they can all stay alive. Those trees, that's a real pagan song, by the way. They are going around the trees to worship the goddess Flora, and then later on, what do they do to those trees?
Decorate them.
Decorate them with?
Flowers.
Flowers. Good, well done. So here they are now decorated with flowers. And did you know that the ribbons were to do with the 7 colours of the sun? So they started putting ribbons on as the sunlight rays, and they started going around the Maypole dancing, all in bright colours. They still actually do this in the schools even now, without thinking where the customs have come from. So that is actually May Day, done. And respecting other religions does not mean wishing or celebrating their festivals. We know that Allah gave us 2 Eids, and those are the 2 festivals that we should be celebrating. We know also that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ saw in the times of Jahiliyyah people celebrating another festival. They were actually pagans, and he asked that, what is all of this that's going on? And somebody said that that's the pagans are doing this, and he said, we have to stop all of this. Allah has substituted for you something better than these 2. The Eid of Adha, sacrifice, and the Eid of Fitr. Also, Allah has commanded us, do not take 2 gods, for He is but one God, so fear me alone. So by doing all these practices, you are actually introducing other gods into your total commitment with Allah. That's actually in the Quran, chapter 16, verse 51. Whoever hopes to meet his Lord should not do what is right and not associate anyone in the worship of his Lord. That's Surah Qaf. We know that Tawheed is the crux of our religion, Islam. The very first part of our first pillar, the Shahada, is that there is only one God. And if you are celebrating pagan festivals, you are breaking that Shahada in half. And did you know we are the only religion who practices Tawheed? We learned from Christianity that they also believe Jesus is the Son of God, or Jesus is God. That's the Trinity, okay? And in the Jewish tradition, they believe that Uzair was the Son of God. There's a little bit of shirk there as well. The only religion in the world which practices pure Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, is Islam. So we need to be very careful to keep that original religion. The success is the only way to go towards success is to go towards Allah, and Allah is the only way that brings you closer to success. We know that shirk is the biggest sin in the world. Everything will get forgiven, but not sin. It is one of the biggest sins in Islam. That is actually in the Quran in chapter 4, verse 48. We know that if we do shirk, we will end up in Jahannam. We know that for sure. Okay? And that is actually a hadith again, where narrated Abdullah, Allah's Messenger said, whoever dies worshipping others along with Allah will definitely enter the fire. And whosoever dies worshipping none along with Allah will definitely enter paradise. That's Sahih al-Bukhari, volume number 2, hadith number 1238. Some people say, well, Easter wasn't around when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was around, but we do know so many things that he did to stop paganism. One of the first things that he did was he went to the Kaaba and he smashed all the idols. He did an Ibrahim special, didn't he? Islam came to eradicate paganism, didn't it? Okay? Also, you saw those pagans were going around clockwise. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ changed the direction of prayer to anti-clockwise. And did you know the whole world is in rhythm with each other, and everything goes around anti-clockwise? The sun and the moon and the planets, even mosquitoes around a light. The birds at the moment are migrating from other countries. Watch them, the direction they're going in. Throw a sycamore tree, thing down and it goes anti-clockwise. Absolutely amazing. And you don't get dizzy either. Also, he changed the prayer times. The rising of the sun, the setting of the sun while it's in the middle of the day. He stopped us even praying in those times because the pagans were praying in those days. This is again mentioned very, very clearly in Sahih Muslim. He said, be different to the mushrikeen. Be different to them. We are not supposed to be the same as them. Okay? He also changed the calendar. He changed the solar calendar to the lunar calendar. Didn't he? Because with the sun, people were worshipping the sun. You end up worshipping the sun because without sun, there's no life. The sun, if there was no sun, there'd be no photosynthesis and there would be no plants. And there would be then hence no oxygen for us all to breathe in. Get rid of the moon and it doesn't matter. What's that going to do? Nothing. Okay? So more likely people are not going to worship the moon. And the Islamic calendar, we know, after Prophet Muhammad passed away, was then based on the moon. We know all this, but even the previous religions, Christianity originally was based on the moon. This is why Easter changes every year. It changed to solar calendar when it got to Britain. They didn't bother changing the calendar to appease the pagans. We also know that Allah says, this day I have perfected your religion for you, completed my favour upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your religion. Those were the words that were revealed from Surah Al-Ma'idah to Prophet Muhammad at the last sermon on the mountain. The last words he said before he passed away. So what we are doing is, if Islam is perfect and complete, who gives us the authority to people to introduce new things in Islam? And we know that introducing new things in Islam is the opposite of Sunnah, which comes under Bid'ah. And what is the punishment of Bid'ah? It is hellfire. The Prophet said, I urge you to follow my Sunnah and the way of the rightly guided Khalifas after me. Adhere to it and cling to it firmly. Beware of newly invented things, for every newly invented thing is an innovation, Bid'ah. And every innovation is a going astray. That's Ahmed and Tirmidhi. So happiness is following the Quran and Sunnah as much as you can. Always remember that it's your Allah that you have to please. Forget everybody else. So if there is one person, and that's you, you follow that path. Let everybody go and do all the wrong. Because you know now from after this lecture that you're liable for your own deeds. Wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it. Right is right even if no one is doing it. And all these things are all worldly things, really. The main day we have to worry about is Judgment Day.